Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in Omaha, where authorities say the man shot dead by a police officer last week had a violent past, but wasn't armed when he was shot. Omaha police released body camera footage of the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Cameron Ford in a news conference over the weekend. Ford was shot by Officer Adam Vale during a no-knock warrant at an Omaha residence on Wednesday. The footage released only tells some of the story because Officer Vale's body camera was blocked by the shield he was carrying at the time of the shooting. One shot was fired, hitting Ford in the chest. Vale said he fired the shot because he says Ford was charging at him and he thought he was in a life-threatening situation.
On this no-knock, there were 23 total verbal commands and 5 by Officer Vale himself, and 11 seconds elapsed before the shooting. On the other hand, it was 7 a.m. in the morning. Perhaps Ford was awakened. There was no spoken word from Ford we could hear on the video, and Officer Vale said there was no spoken words. On one hand, Ford did not say, "I am in here to the police, I surrender." On the other hand, Ford had a gun by his bed and did not grab to use it.
Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmatter says federal authorities were assisting in the search warrant because of Ford's criminal history. After the shooting, officers located a loaded firearm and narcotics in the residence. Vale currently on desk duty pending the results of the investigation. A vehicle fire shut down lanes of I-80 in southeast Nebraska on Monday. This video shows the aftermath of the scene along the eastbound lanes of the interstate between York and Beaver Crossing. A truck and RV both fully engulfed in flames. Rescue officials closed about a mile east of eastbound I-80 to help battle the fire. No word yet on any injuries or what caused the fire. Well, during Labor Day weekend, several family members, retired Union Pacific employees, and other supporters rallied in North Platte. The protesters were boycotting Union Pacific's annual Family Days. They say their family members that work for UP have to work forced long 16-hour days and are often called in on their off days, sometimes even being disciplined for not working overtime. Protesters say these forced long hours are affecting their families.
My husband's been out there for 28 years, and the last couple years have just been horrible, and it's really affecting him, and it's affecting our lives as families.
Protesters said UP's policies are unclear, difficult to understand. They said they hope their protest helps to spread their message about a need for change. A strike, meanwhile, affecting dozens of hotels across the country could be growing this week. The union threatening to add Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott locations in more cities. The workers demanding wage increases and an end to pandemic-era service cuts. Amy Kiley has more on how the walkouts could affect guests.
Some travelers could see service disruptions as a hotel worker strike continues for a third day. The walkout includes more than 10,000 Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt employees. The dozens of affected hotels across the country are open, but some guests have complained about reduced services. The facilities are operating with smaller staffs.
I think it's probably very limited services inside because we had very few workers cross the line and go into work, so it means management is doing all the work that we normally do.
Unite Here is the union that represents the striking workers.
They would like to be able to provide for their families and live in the same cities that they welcome guests to every day.
The union says the chains still have some pandemic-era cuts in place. For instance, some hotels don't automatically provide daily housekeeping.
It makes the work harder for the workers that remain, and it makes the hotels less appealing to guests.
In a statement, Hyatt says it looks forward to fair contract negotiations. Hilton says it's also committed to reaching a deal with the union.
And it's really hard to be in this business and smile and greet the guests when in the back of your mind, you're trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
It's not just hotel workers. Workers at Boeing could be on the verge of a major strike. The aerospace developer and manufacturer's contract with about 32,000 union workers expires next week. A union leader said Boeing and workers are far apart on all of the main issues: wages, health care, retirement, and time off. Boeing says it will continue to bargain with the union in good faith. They say they're confident a deal can be reached. But the company's been facing a number of other challenges this year: fatal crashes, design flaws, and tanking aircraft sales. Well, the holiday weekend is wrapped up. New government numbers now giving us a look at how Americans spent their money over the summer. That view could impact what happens to interest rates later this month. Emily Schmidt has more on what this could mean for you.
In summer terms, the 4th of July may feel like a lifetime ago. But in economic terms, what was happening then is just now coming to light.
Consumer spending was strong in July. 0.4% for the month, just below 3% year over year.
Commerce Department figures released Friday show stronger than expected spending, with the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, or PCE, inflation gauge holding steady. That's also better than expected.
It means continued movement in the right direction with easing inflation.
You may have noticed one sign already.
We are actually seeing relief at the pump. So $3.35 national average. That's a reduction of about 50 cents since last Labor Day, and the lowest Labor Day gas prices we've seen in 3 years.
The numbers in the Commerce Department report are likely to play out on the campaign trail over the next 2 months, as both inflation and borrowing costs continue to be top concerns for voters.
I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%.
Together, we will deliver low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs, low interest rates, low inflation, so that everyone can afford groceries, a car, and a home.
But the most critical result of the PCE could become clear in just a couple of weeks, when the Fed announces if it will or will not cut interest rates for the first time since 2020. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
Staying with politics, a decision on whether or not to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug in the U.S. won't be coming until after the presidential election. The timeline raises the chances it could be a potent political issue in the closely contested race. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration set a hearing date to take comment on the proposed historic change in federal drug policy for December 2nd. That hearing date means a final decision could well come in the next administration, which could put a new spotlight on Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump's positions on marijuana. Harris has backed decriminalizing the drug, while Trump signaled support for a Florida legalization measure over the weekend. For a growing number of Nebraskans, the struggle to put food on the table is a daily one. A recent report from Feeding America reveals that food insecurity in Nebraska has surged 37%. 1 in 7 residents, including 1 in 5 children, face hunger. Well, Casey Wannenberg takes us to Valentine, where a small group of volunteers is making a big impact.
Saturday mornings, a chance for many to sleep in. But for these Valentine volunteers, it's anything but a lazy morning.
About 5:15.
Tim Larson has already cooked up around 60 dozen eggs.
I drink a lot of coffee.
He's one of a handful of volunteers preparing breakfast for the Valentine community. While some donate to support the cause, the Farm Fresh meal is free.
We do this because we love Jesus and we love people.
Scott McClellan is the pastor at Valentine Berean Bible Church, where they cooked up the idea 3 years ago.
I think when we first started out, we might have served 10 people, carry out meals around town.
Now volunteers from different denominations prepare more than 100 meals twice a month.
I had these 2 meals and I stopped a friend of mine on the street. I just waved him down. I said, I've got 2 meals here. Can you think of someone who might need them? He goes, well, this lady across the street in this house, she's quite old and I think she could probably use some help. So I knocked on her door and I told her who I was and what I had. And she started to cry. I'll never forget this. She said, I wondered what I was going to eat today. I thought, in Valentine, Nebraska, wondering what you were going to eat that day. That just shocked me.
It's not just the people who volunteered their time to cook who help out with this project. Area ranchers also donate meat and eggs, and even a teenage girl takes time to decorate each box with a unique Bible verse.
Supporting a good thing that they're doing.
Beverly Cockrow and her husband Dean never miss these Saturday morning gatherings.
A lot of these older people can't get out or go anywhere or do anything, and they like to visit, so it's a good deal.
While a few like Beverly come to the Vets Club to eat,
look over there, Pastor.
Let's get over here.
Most meals are delivered, thanks to Gigi Gonzalez, who has her own inspiring story.
Had no job, no car, no money. My friend let me stay with her.
Gigi says that with the help of her friend and God's grace, she found a job and saved enough money to buy a car.
When I got this car, I said, this is another miracle. This car I'm consecrating to God to do His work.
And that she has. Over the past 2 years, she's only missed a couple of these Saturday special deliveries.
They thank me profusely every Saturday, and I kind of shake my head and just say, you're welcome, but it's my blessing.
As the sun climbs higher on a not-so-lazy Saturday morning, these volunteers are delivering more than meals. They're nourishing spirits and strengthening the community.
Just feeling like you've touched someone's life in some way, a positive way, to encourage them for another day.
In Valentine, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
And finally, we're not kidding about this next story. Check this out. Kearney police shared this image Monday showing what they said was 24 goats that mysteriously showed up and were wandering Kearney High School property. The goats didn't appear to be doing any damage outside of some unplanned landscaping to the lawn outside the school. Police said the owner was contacted and the goats were safely returned home. You can stay up to date with the very latest and maybe find more ideas for news puns at our website, newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the news link there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.